The following conversation was recorded on January the 20th, 1969, with the spirit of Mary Ann Ross, and the medium was Leslie Flint. The following is an edited version. She was asked what happened when she first passed over. It was a long time ago. I was sitting in the kitchen, doing a bit of sewing with a lamp. I don't remember getting up out of the chair. It was as if the whole room was full of light. I could see all sorts of people around. There was my mother, father and brother, who had died many years before, and Nellie, a friend that had died only a few weeks ago. I thought I was having a dream about my people. Nellie came and put her arms around me and kissed me on the face. It was warm and real. My mother came and kissed me too. They took my hands, and the next thing I was floating through the window, and then everything went black. I woke up in a bed in a very nice room in an old house. It was cosy and the sun was shining through the window. There was my mother, but she did not look the same as when I saw her in my dreams. She looked young, as I'd seen her in the picture that used to hang on my bedroom when she was married many years before. She'd got a white dress and a black bow ribbon in her hair, like I'd seen her in early pictures when I was very young. We had a collection of old photos that Mother kept in the tin. It was just as I was seeing her as she was then. She said I was all right and nothing to worry about, and I was not going back. I thought it was a dream. She said, "It's not a dream, and not to worry, and when you recover, we'll go out and meet some people that you knew when you were young." I couldn't understand or realize that I was dead. It was like a beautiful dream. Then a dog jumped on my bed and frightened me. I was fond of animals, but this was a dog we'd had many years ago that my father adored and was killed by a car when I was in my 20s. We called it Nipper. To see Nipper jump on the bed startled me. My mother said, "Of course we've animals here too." I couldn't understand it. My mother said, "You'll see a lot of other animals." When you've been brought up religious, you didn't think of animals being here. I thought this was too natural to be heaven, and it would be different, and it would be like one sees in religious books, with angels and wings. I thought it was a dream, or I'd wake up, but I felt different. I felt light as air, and was curious about myself and said I'd like to see myself in the mirror. And my mother laughed and said, "We don't have mirrors here. Mirrors are not necessary. You can see yourself when you know yourself. You don't have to look into a mirror to see how you look." I felt young and my body seemed light. I felt that I could get up and dance around the room. Then I dozed off, but it wasn't really dozing off. But then I was walking down a lane. It was beautiful, with trees, fields and cattle. There were all sorts of animals that I'd seen in picture books. Once, years ago, when my parents were alive, we'd gone to Edinburgh, and I remember we went to a place where there were all different animals. There were beautiful creatures wandering around, and no one felt afraid. There were birds in the trees, and they were whistling and singing, and there was music. It sounded like music, but there was nothing that I remembered in music. I was very musical myself, though I never had any opportunity to study music. I could hear music and sounds, as if they were the sounds of nature. There was also the animals and birds that all blended together. I remember walking on this road and had no feeling of tiredness, and I came to the end of the lane and there was a beautiful white house. It was beautifully kept, but it wasn't paint. It had a lustre like a mother of pearl, with soft shades of other pastel colours. It was all aglow, and as I came to this house, a man came out of the door, and my heart gave a jump. That's if I had a heart. It was a young man that I was very fond of, who I'd turned down. It wasn't because I didn't love him. I couldn't have married him because it meant that I had to give up my parents who were getting old. I didn't feel that it was right to put a burden upon a man of someone else's parents. No matter how fond he was of me, I turned him down. He never married, and he moved away from the district soon afterwards, and I lost touch with him. He came out of this house and looked just as he'd looked before in his 30s. Tall, dark, and in those days he had a moustache. He came rushing down the front of his garden path and put his arms around me and made a fuss of me, and I felt overwhelmed. I felt for the first time that I was wanted. He said, "At last you've come to me, and this time you'll no turn me down." I didn't know what to say to him. Then all of a sudden, all the flowers began to blossom and seemed to grow, and it was as if the garden came alive. There were all kinds of flowers that I remember from Earth and flowers I'd never seen before. There were tall orange flowers, like poppies. I'm so happy here. There were beautiful orange flowers like umbrellas, and we stood underneath them. It was as if through the petals of these enormous orange flowers was a beautiful light, and they seemed to have warmth and glow. I said, I've never seen such big flowers in beautiful colours and so tall. He said, until you came, I planted many seeds in my thoughts that one day I'll have a beautiful garden. When you came, it was then that I knew that I'd have a beautiful garden which I could be proud of. He said, these poppies are my love that have been growing all the years I've been watching over you. They're symbolic of our love together. Now we can be free. Come to the house. I can't say if I walked or floated, but it was as if my feet never touched the ground. The house was just as I'd always wished and dreamed. It was not a big house, but it was bigger than anything I've been used to, and everything seemed to be perfect. It was solid and real, and there were such pretty colours and a wonderful feeling of home. He said, we're together and we can make up for lost time. I'd never felt so happy. And then I thought about my mama and father, and he said, that's all right. He said, you've finished. Now you have your own life to be shared with me. We can see them whenever we wish. They can come and see us too. You have so much to learn. Suddenly, in the corner of the room, I saw a piano. I'd always wanted to be a musician and be able to play. I'd always loved music. He'd been a music teacher and was still interested in music. He said, you can have one of your heart's desires and you can become musical. And I would teach you, and you can learn. I was happy and thrilled. It was as if my youth had come back to me, and all the opportunities that I desired and mattered most to me. Then he sat at the piano and played like an angel, all the beautiful music that I used to love. He used to play in the church and sometimes in the village. I was mesmerized into being able to play myself. I don't remember having lessons, but it was as if when I sat down at the piano and he stood beside me, my fingers automatically went to the right notes. I know it was him mentally helping me and my fumbling fingers. Then he said, we'll sometimes go to concerts and you can hear the great people. It gives me hope that I might eventually one day be able to play beautifully. He took me to one place in particular with many steps. You'd get so tired climbing up all those steps, but I did not feel tired at all. We went into this great place and it was vast. It must have held thousands of people. There on a platform was a beautiful piano, the most beautiful thing I'd seen in my life. It was much bigger than any other piano I'd ever seen or heard. It had 3 tiers of keys and was very beautiful. It's as if it was made of mother of pearl with the most beautiful colours and tints. Then a beautiful man came on who was tall with long hair and fine features, and he sat down and started to play. I'd never heard anything like it. It seemed as if there were 3 of the keyboards being used at the same time, yet there was only 1 pair of hands. I don't know how the other keyboards were played. I did not see his hands go to the top 2 keyboards, only the lower, but I could see the depression of the notes on the other keyboards. I can only assume that in some way they were all connected up together. It was extraordinary. You were carried away by it and enveloped by it. You lose sense of place and time, as if part of the music in you lost sight of the hall and the people and even the pianist after a time. It was as if you were transported in a strange way, as if you were part of the music that was talking to you and helping you to understand. Looking back, I know that it was a bond between us, but I realized that this other experience was something beyond ordinary music. All sorts of extraordinary things do happen here. And there are many aspects of experience which one couldn't begin to explain, and I've had some fantastic experiences. As far as people dying, no one need worry about it at all. It's the most wonderful experience. At first it's a shock, but you soon get over it, and if you know about it beforehand, you know what to expect, which is a great help. A lot of people don't realize that they're dead at first. It takes them a little while to understand. I now teach people in a wee school. I always loved children. I would have loved to have had children myself, and now I teach.